Welcome to Peace and Dharma, where the profound truths of Buddha's teachings illuminate life. Every being in this world is swept into the flow of life, where everything constantly changes and fades. Have you ever wondered why joy is fleeting or why precious things slip away? This sense of emptiness and regret is a reminder of the impermanent nature of all things and phenomena. The Buddha once taught, among all footprints, the elephant's is the largest. Among all contemplations, the contemplation of impermanence is the greatest. Impermanence is not intended to deepen sadness, but to remind us that everything has a beginning and an end. Understanding impermanence is the first step in seeing life's truths. Recognizing that change is a natural law that no one can alter. This nature applies not only to external things like objects and events but also to our body, emotions, and thoughts, which are all part of the endless stream of impermanence. Impermanence is the essence of this world. From a dewdrop on a leaf to the changing seasons, from youth to old age, all things transform, and nothing endures forever. Those seemingly indestructible things eventually fade, just like a river that never stops flowing. Each passing day is a reminder that we walk on the path of impermanence, and what is precious today may not exist tomorrow. This awareness brings peace, freeing us from suffering and regrets over what is lost, allowing us to embrace each moment with deep gratitude. Besides impermanence, Buddhism teaches another important truth: non-self. The self that people often consider unchanging is, in fact, just a temporary combination of the five aggregates: form, feeling, perception, mental formations, and consciousness. These components are constantly transforming, not fixed or eternal. The sense of a separate, unchanging self is merely an illusion created by the mind. However, this attachment to self is the root of suffering, as whenever something threatens this sense of self, we feel unsettled and troubled. Non-self does not mean denying human existence. Instead, it helps to realize that self is not a permanent entity. When we recognize the nature of non-self, our heart becomes lighter, free from clinging to concepts of me and mine. This understanding allows us to live a life of tolerance, harmony, love, and empathy, recognizing that all beings share the nature of impermanence and non-self. When we understand impermanence and non-self, Buddhism guides us toward the highest spiritual state, Nirvana. Nirvana is not a place but an enlightenment, a cessation of all craving, aversion, and ignorance. It is the absolute calm of the mind, free from negative emotions, worries, and fears. Those who reach Nirvana have transcended the bonds of life, living in purity and serenity, unaffected by worldly changes. Impermanence, non-self, and Nirvana are the three core principles in the Buddha's teachings. These are not merely abstract concepts but truths that can lead humanity to a life of peace and tranquility. Understanding these three principles is the key to unlocking liberation from all suffering. Through practice, we can see our true nature more clearly, live in harmony with the world, and no longer be caught in the cycle of desire and attachment. To begin this journey, let us enter the concept of impermanence, the first doorway to understanding the law of the universe's transformation. Recognizing impermanence helps us see that all forms will eventually change and disappear. Accepting impermanence brings peace, as letting go of fleeting things gradually frees us from suffering caused by greed, anger, and ignorance. Let's start the first part of this journey to explore the three Buddhist principles with the concept of impermanence. This truth will help us see life with a new perspective, one of understanding, compassion, and a soul ready to let go. Everything in life is governed by impermanence. From the shifts in nature to the transformations within consciousness, nothing remains unchanged. Understanding impermanence is the first step to a deeper awareness of life, guiding us to live peacefully without clinging to temporary things. Let's delve into the concept of impermanence to explore this universal law further. Impermanence is a truth that any of us can see when we look at life. This truth permeates every object, every person, every moment. So, what is impermanence? It is the ceaseless change of all things, a law that nothing can escape. It is the eternal truth in this world that everything, big or small, is subject to constant change. To understand impermanence more clearly, look at the nature around us. Many of us have witnessed the blooming and withering of flowers, the green leaves that turn yellow and finally fall to the ground. These flowers and leaves seem to be the clearest evidence of change. They bloom briefly, showing vibrant colors, and then quietly fade away. Nature, in its cycle, reminds us that nothing lasts forever. Take a broader view, observe the endlessly flowing rivers. There is a saying that no one can step in the same river twice, because the water constantly flows, never stopping. That river can symbolize life itself, the endless transformation of everything around us. What we see, which seems permanent, is actually just a connection of fleeting moments, continuously changing every second, every minute. Understanding this helps us better understand life's nature, so we become less attached to ephemeral things and know when to let go. But impermanence doesn't just stop at what belongs to the natural world outside. Our own body is also a vivid example of continuous change. From birth, the body goes through many stages: childhood, adulthood, and eventually aging. In each stage, the body changes in shape, health, and function. Today we may be healthy, but no one knows what tomorrow holds. Every moment, millions of cells in the body are born and die, nothing is fixed. Recognizing that this body is just a flow of change helps us appreciate our health, take care of ourselves, but also not cling to this body as it fades away. Just like the body, our mind also constantly changes. Emotions, thoughts, and mental states can shift rapidly. We may feel joy now, but a small event can quickly turn joy into sadness, disappointment, or anger. In a single day, moods can change many times. Sometimes without a clear reason. The mind continuously shifts with each event, each circumstance, each thought. Recognizing the impermanence of the mind helps us avoid being swept up by negative emotions, allowing us to observe them and understand that they come and go. What does impermanence mean in our daily lives? It means recognizing that everything we have and cherish can change or leave us at any time. This understanding is not to make us fearful or sad, but to help us appreciate what we have now. Knowing that everything is impermanent, we no longer cling to the temporary. Precious things in life become more valued because we understand they will not last forever. These might be moments with family, with friends, achievements in work, or moments of peace in life. One of the most prominent examples of impermanence is human relationships. Some people were once close friends or loved ones, but over time, things can change or be lost. Not all relationships will last forever, and that is a part of life. Recognizing impermanence helps us accept and avoid suffering when we must part with someone. Understanding the law of impermanence brings peace, helping us face separations without feeling too painful because we understand it is natural. A verse from the Sutra of the Wonderful Dharma says, "The three realms are impermanent and unstable. Life flows swiftly toward death, like a dancer's move. A lightning flash in the sky, or a waterfall." Impermanence is not only the change of small things but the vast transformation of life itself. Each of us is born, grows, and eventually faces death. This is the impermanence of life. Being able to accept this truth gives us a different view of life, where we no longer cling to material things and do not fear loss. Understanding impermanence is also the first step in realizing the true essence of life. This is the path to enlightenment, where people find real peace. Living with impermanence helps us have a more compassionate heart, forgiving ourselves and others, letting go of resentments, to live a lighter, more serene life. From the impermanence of objects to the impermanence of ourselves. Awareness of change opens us up to life, no longer immersed in regrets or bound by suffering. Impermanence is part of the truth that all beings must face and accept. When we understand impermanence, we will know how to live in the present, value every moment, and face life's ups and downs peacefully. To continue exploring life's essence, let's expand our perspective to another truth, non-self. Because impermanence is not only about understanding change but also opens us up to the realization that each person does not have a permanent self. This non-self is the key to finding true peace in life when we understand that self is not something to cling to. When thinking about impermanence, many people may envision it as changes over time, like the succession of the 4 seasons or a person's journey from birth to growth and eventually to old age. However, impermanence doesn't only exist in these long cycles. A unique aspect of impermanence is the change occurring in each fleeting moment, each ksana, or instant, that cannot be seen with the naked eye. So, what is ksana? In Buddhism, ksana is understood as the smallest unit of time, the time for a single thought or state to arise and then disappear. Momentary impermanence is the change occurring in each tiny moment, so small that it is undetectable by human senses. Yet, even though we cannot see it, these changes are constantly happening, like the never-ending flow of a river. Each passing ksana marks a birth and death, each moment transforms the present into the past, and each old phenomenon is replaced by a new one. To better visualize this, think about the changes within our own bodies. Our bodies are never still, from breath and heartbeat to the activity of millions of cells that regenerate and die in every instant. Life and death are continuously happening within every living being, from moment to moment. No one can hold on to a particular moment in their body, as everything is merely a continuous flow of birth and death. Impermanence is not only the change from youth to old age or life to death. It is also the movement in each smallest moment. Not only the body, but the human mind is also governed by momentary impermanence. Our mood changes continuously. In one moment, we may feel happy, yet just a ksana later, that joy can vanish. Human emotions never remain constant, they change invisibly with each new thought and each new feeling. We might smile, but a sudden memory might bring sadness. Even our thoughts arise and fade away within each ksana. Like a river, the flow of consciousness never stops, never remains fixed. When we see that everything changes in each ksana, we realize that life is a cycle of birth and death without pause. This birth and death aren't only the beginnings and ends of long cycles, but the continuous disappearance and reappearance in every fleeting moment. Human life is like a candle, each drop of wax melts, the flame burns brightly for just a moment before it is replaced by a new flame. Our entire life is made up of these endless ksanas, a ceaseless cycle of fleeting moments. Reflecting on momentary impermanence helps us realize that everything in life, including our emotions, is just a temporary phenomenon. Once we understand this, our hearts will no longer cling to joy, nor fear sorrow, because we know that all things will pass. This is the way to live peacefully amidst life's changes, to face everything with equanimity. In meditation practice, reflecting on momentary impermanence can begin by focusing on the breath. Each inhale is a beginning, each exhale is an ending. This practice helps us see that everything, no matter how small, has a beginning and an end. Each breath is a ksana of birth and death, reminding us of the impermanent nature of life. When we focus on our breath, our minds become more serene, no longer disturbed by passing thoughts. This is the lesson that momentary impermanence can bring, allowing the practitioner to deeply experience the changes occurring in each moment of consciousness. However, momentary impermanence is not only a lesson about the nature of life, it also serves as a reminder not to waste any single moment in the present. Each ksana that passes is a part of life that has vanished, never to return. When we deeply recognize momentary impermanence, we come to cherish each present moment, each breath, each meeting, and each second of life. Everything in life can change in the blink of an eye, so let no ksana pass meaninglessly. Impermanence doesn't only unfold in the long cycles of life but also in every second, every minute. Momentary impermanence and continuous birth and death show us that change never ceases. The river of time flows continuously, like every drop in a stream. From these tiny moments, each person's life is formed. A deep understanding of momentary impermanence is also a critical step in realizing non-self. When we see that no moment is fixed, we gradually understand that our very self is also not a permanent entity. Non-self is a continuation of momentary impermanence, for if everything is always changing, what is this self we cling to? What truly can be called self? Let's move forward on our journey of discovery with non-self, a concept that reveals the self as merely an illusion, a collection of continuously changing elements. Understanding non-self is an important step toward freedom from suffering caused by attachment to a self that does not actually exist in a permanent way. Momentary impermanence has shown us that everything arises and falls away in each ksana, with nothing being unchanging. But what about each person? This self we often think is the center of the universe. What is it really? Let us enter the next part, non-self, to understand this truth and to see that the self is merely an illusion. A collection of continuously changing elements in each ksana. In life, people often cling to something called the self, a central entity perceived as the source of all actions, emotions, and thoughts. This self is commonly felt as a solid entity, existing from birth until departure from this world. But have you ever wondered what this self really is? Does it truly exist in a fixed form? According to Buddhist philosophy, non-self is the truth that helps us understand that there is no fixed self, no permanent ego. What we often call self is merely a temporary combination of constantly changing elements. The Buddha taught that a person is simply an assembly of the five aggregates: form, feeling, perception, mental formations, and consciousness. These elements are in a state of continual change, arising and ceasing in each moment. Therefore, the self we consider the center does not have a fixed essence. This realization is the first step toward seeing that ego is merely an illusion created by the mind. First, let's examine the element of form, or in other words, the physical body. This body is a physical entity, but it does not exist in one fixed form. From birth to maturity, the body undergoes countless transformations, growing and aging, and eventually disintegrating. Millions of cells in the body are born and die, constantly replacing one another. This demonstrates that even the body, something we think of as ours, does not belong to us forever. Next is feeling, our sensations. Sensations can be joyful, sorrowful, painful, or pleasant, yet none of them last forever. Feelings come and go, changing according to circumstances, mood, and even external stimuli. Feelings are merely temporary responses of the body and mind to external factors. Nothing is enduring or fixed. However, we often cling to these feelings, suffering when joy fades or sadness arrives. Understanding that feelings are temporary helps us move through emotions more lightly, no longer allowing them to control us. Then comes perception, our awareness and understanding of the world. Perception includes memories, the things we remember, images, and ideas imprinted in the mind. Perception is also not something unchanging. What we remember today may fade tomorrow. Things we once considered important may eventually be forgotten, and even memories change in nature over time. So, if memories and awareness are in constant flux, does the self we believe in truly exist? Another element is mental formations, our actions, habits, natural responses to situations, and even the seeds of karma that each person accumulates through thoughts and actions. Mental formations continuously change, influenced by thoughts and circumstances. Behaviors and habits today may change over time, nothing is permanent. Recognizing that actions also have no fixed essence helps us realize that past mistakes can be amended and that we always have the option to act differently in the future. Finally, there is consciousness, the awareness and ability to distinguish, the awareness that discerns right and wrong, good and bad. However, even consciousness is not a permanent entity. This awareness continuously changes, influenced by what we learn, experience, and observe. What we consider true today may be replaced by new perspectives tomorrow. Consciousness creates the perception of a self, yet it is also ever-changing, with nothing lasting. Thus, a person is merely a gathering of the five aggregates: form, feeling, perception, mental formations, and consciousness, all in constant change. So, where is the unchanging self that people often cling to? In reality, there is no self that truly exists. What we think of as ego is merely a combination of ever-changing elements. Nothing is a fixed entity. Understanding non-self not only helps people see their true nature but also brings lightness to the mind. When we no longer cling to ego, we no longer suffer from personal offenses, nor do we harbor resentment, because we understand that everything happens without relation to a fixed self. Non-self reduces greed, anger, and attachment in life. Indeed, the greatest suffering of humankind comes from ego attachment. Because we believe in a distinct self, we give rise to greed, anger, and ignorance. We are greedy because we want the best for ourself, angered when this self is harmed, and ignorant when we do not recognize our own non-self nature. However, as we understand non-self, these sufferings gradually dissolve. The mind becomes purer, lighter, like a leaf floating down a river, no longer bound by troubles created by ego. In life, non-self helps people live with compassion and tolerance. When we no longer cling to ego, we see that all beings share the same nature. From this, empathy, love, and forgiveness naturally arise. When there is no division between self and others, people live harmoniously, no longer seeing themselves as the center of the universe but as part of the vast world. Practicing non-self allows spiritual practitioners to achieve true peace. When ego attachment fades, worries and fears vanish, and life becomes tranquil, with happiness stemming from inner calm. After understanding non-self, our journey continues toward an even higher state where there is no suffering, no affliction. This is Nirvana. Nirvana is not a void but a state of liberation, the result of transcending all ego, moving beyond all greed, anger, and ignorance, to reach supreme peace. After understanding impermanence and non-self, the soul gradually becomes more serene and light. But this is only the beginning of liberation. The final stage of this journey is Nirvana, where the bonds of suffering are broken, and the mind reaches absolute tranquility. Let's move on to the next section to explore this supreme state of peace and understand that Nirvana is not a place but an enlightenment beyond all afflictions and attachments. Having journeyed through the truths of impermanence and non-self, we gradually understand that the essence of all things in life is change and that the self we cling to is simply a temporary union of the five aggregates. When we can accept this, the mind begins to let go of its attachments, opening to a new state, the state of emptiness and nirvana. This is the ultimate destination on the path toward enlightenment. So, what is emptiness? Emptiness, or sunyata, can be simply understood as the absence of inherent, fixed nature in all phenomena. When we clearly see the essence of impermanence and non-self, we recognize that in the deepest sense, nothing has an independent, permanent existence. All phenomena arise through causes and conditions, and when these conditions cease, everything dissolves. Therefore, existence is merely a series of conditions coming together, with nothing being autonomous or self-sustained. Understanding emptiness, we are no longer entangled in anything, no longer attached to self or objects, and our mind becomes naturally light and liberated. Emptiness also helps us see clearly that all our attachments, emotions, and thoughts are illusory, mere products of clinging to transient things. Recognizing this, practitioners let go of attachments, no longer entangled in life's afflictions and sorrows. From this release, the mind reaches stillness, unaffected by any circumstances. To put it simply, emptiness is not a denial of existence but an understanding that all existence is based on conditional causation and lacks an independent essence. A flower, a mountain, or even a thought in our mind, all of these exist only as temporary combinations of elements. Seeing deeply into emptiness is seeing the truth of all things and understanding the interconnectedness of everything in life. When the mind has realized emptiness, one is no longer attached to anything. The soul becomes free, transcending all worldly bonds and entanglements. This is the starting point leading to Nirvana, the highest state of enlightenment. Nirvana is not a place or realm but a state of absolute mental tranquility, where all afflictions, cravings, anger, and ignorance have dissolved. Nirvana is not the end of life but the end of suffering. It is the transcendence of delusion, the escape from the cycle of birth and death, to reach eternal peace. Nirvana is not a loss but a return to the mind's pure nature. It is a state where the mind is entirely free, no longer swayed by negative emotions or fleeting illusions. Nirvana is the ultimate destination on the path of enlightenment, the serene clarity of a mind that has surpassed all suffering and reached perfect peace. To understand it better, imagine the human mind as a body of water. Ordinarily, this water is disturbed by countless emotions, illusions, anxieties, and fears. Every thought, every negative emotion, is like a stone thrown into the water, causing ripples. But in Nirvana, the mind becomes calm, like a lake that is still, pure, and tranquil. In this state, there is no craving, no aversion, no ignorance, only peace remains. However, achieving Nirvana requires a long journey of practice and gradual detachment from ego and clinging to transient worldly things. It requires patience and sincere devotion because overcoming the bonds of ignorance and desire is not easy. The path of enlightenment is not about seeking novelty but about returning to the mind's inherent purity, untouched by worldly contamination. Nirvana is the union of wisdom and compassion. When wisdom reveals emptiness, people are no longer drawn to life's illusions and attachments to ego and material things. From there, compassion naturally flows, as one no longer sees the division between oneself and others. Love becomes unconditional, vast, and boundless. Wisdom frees people from ignorance, compassion allows them to transcend selfishness and love all beings. The path to Nirvana is not about distancing oneself from life but about integrating into life with purity and lightness. Nirvana is not in a distant realm but present in each moment when the soul finds peace, when we let go, accept, and are no longer bound by desires and suffering. In daily life, anyone can experience Nirvana in moments of tranquility in the soul. These may be moments of calm in meditation, when the mind is free from all negative thoughts, or moments of practicing compassion toward others, not for personal gain, but simply from unconditional love. Understanding Nirvana helps us live a more meaningful life, free from the cycle of craving, anger, and ignorance. This way, we can feel true and lasting happiness, a happiness that does not depend on external things but arises from inner peace. Nirvana is the pinnacle of enlightenment, the ultimate liberation. But the path to nirvana is not about striving to reach a specific state but rather about gradually letting go of illusions and attachments. Then, when the mind becomes clear and free from all entanglements, nirvana naturally reveals itself. Thus, the journey of enlightenment, from impermanence through non-self to emptiness and nirvana, is a journey back to the inherent purity within each person. This is not only the path to liberation from suffering but also the path to rediscovering true peace and happiness. Living in enlightenment means living a complete life, free from worldly afflictions, and filled with peace, wisdom, and compassion. When we have understood the truths of emptiness and nirvana, we can face life with courage, love unconditionally, and find inner peace amidst all of life's storms. This is the greatest gift of enlightenment, the path to true serenity in the heart. Let the journey from impermanence through non-self to emptiness and nirvana be the way for each person to find inner tranquility, living a meaningful, joyful, and peaceful life. After understanding impermanence, non-self, and emptiness, one question may arise: how can we apply these truths in daily life? How can this knowledge go beyond theory to become part of our lives, bringing peace to our minds? The answer lies in practice. Through meditation and contemplation, we gradually recognize the nature of impermanence and, from there, live a life of serenity and liberation. Meditation is the path to calming the mind, allowing us to observe clearly what is happening within and around us. Meditation helps us see into the essence of things, bringing stillness amid the rush of life and freeing us from fleeting illusions. Meditation is the key that opens the door to enlightenment, a method for seeing impermanence and transforming the mind. Begin with breath meditation, as the breath is the clearest expression of change. Each inhalation is a beginning, each exhalation is an ending. The breath is an unending stream, a reminder of impermanence in each ksana. When sitting in meditation, focus on the breath naturally, without trying to alter its rhythm, simply observing. Feel the breath entering through the nose, filling the lungs, and then slowly releasing, each breath at a time. Through each breath, feel that life itself flows by moment by moment. Each inhale is a birth, each exhale a death, and this cycle continues until life's end. When the mind is quiet, begin to contemplate impermanence in the breath. Each breath is a moment of birth and death, a reminder that everything has a beginning and an end. Observing the breath helps us not only to realize impermanence in the body but also to recognize that all emotions and thoughts come and go like breaths. The mind becomes lighter as it no longer clings to any thoughts or emotions, knowing that all are merely temporary phenomena. Once the mind is steady with the breath, expand awareness to observe everything around you. Think about all the familiar things in life, from the room, small objects like tables and chairs, the trees outside the window, to houses, roads, and people. Everything, from lifeless objects to living beings, is constantly changing. Objects grow old, trees wither and then revive, and humans are born, grow old, and eventually pass away. Nothing is eternal. Meditating on the impermanence of things around us reveals that life is just an endless flow of birth and death. Contemplation on impermanence also helps us understand the true nature of the mind. Try observing the stream of thoughts in your head, noticing that no thought remains long. Thoughts come and go, joy will pass, and sadness will fade. When we no longer cling to any particular thought, the mind becomes free, no longer swept away by disturbances. Realizing that everything is merely a flow of fleeting moments helps us let go of suffering and no longer cling to temporary things. Another essential practice is meditative contemplation on the body. While sitting in meditation, focus on each part of the body, from head to toe. Feel the presence of each part, recognizing that the body is also subject to impermanence. This body constantly changes from birth to death. Each cell is continuously born and dies. Meditating on the body helps us release attachment to this self, seeing that the body is merely a collection of elements, with nothing fixed or eternal. To deepen the practice of awareness of impermanence, bring the spirit of meditation into each moment of life. When doing anything, walking, eating, working, or interacting with others, always keep in mind the awareness of impermanence. Every step, every look, every word is a unique moment that cannot be repeated. When we realize this, we cherish every second, live with gratitude, and no longer waste time on trivial things. Practicing awareness of impermanence through meditation and contemplation not only brings peace to the soul but also helps us live a more meaningful life. By understanding that all things are temporary, we are no longer troubled by loss, no longer angered by harm, and no longer attached to the temporary things in life. Awareness of impermanence helps us let go of troubles, live with compassion and understanding. And when we have deeply understood impermanence through meditation, the path of enlightenment naturally opens up. That is when we no longer distinguish between self and mind, no longer cling to anything, and the mind becomes peaceful and light. Awareness of impermanence through practice is the key to reaching nirvana, to finding peace within the heart. Let each moment of life be a lesson in impermanence, realizing that although life is beautiful, it is but a passing moment. Practicing awareness of impermanence through meditation and contemplation is the way for us to live fully in each moment, finding peace and enlightenment within this very life. The final stage of this journey is to live with enlightenment, carrying a mind that understands impermanence, non-self, emptiness, and nirvana. It is a life free from bondage, no longer swept away by fleeting illusions, a life of peace, wisdom, and compassion. Let every step on the path to enlightenment be a step closer to oneself, to the inherent tranquility and peace. This journey is not just a journey of knowledge, but a journey of rediscovering the true essence of the soul, to live a life that is truly meaningful and complete. When we deeply understand and practice the truths of impermanence, non-self, emptiness, and reach nirvana in each moment, we find serenity, a peace that does not rely on the external world. The journey to enlightenment is not a distant destination but a journey inward to live fully in each instant of life. After journeying through the truths of impermanence, non-self, and nirvana, the question remains, how can these truths truly hold significance in daily life? How can each person not only understand these concepts theoretically but also apply them to every moment, making life lighter and more serene? Today, let us explore the profound meaning of these truths and how they can transform each person's life. First, let's think about impermanence. Impermanence is not just an abstract concept but a law present in every moment of life. Understanding impermanence, we no longer cling to temporary things or suffer over what has passed. We often cling to memories, relationships, and achievements, feeling pain when they are lost. But when we understand that everything has a beginning and an end, we learn to appreciate the present and are no longer burdened by the past. Awareness of impermanence helps us open our hearts to change, no longer fearing life's unexpected turns. In daily life, impermanence is a reminder not to waste time on trivial things but instead to live fully in each moment. When we understand that each moment is unique and will never return, we cherish every second with loved ones, every smile, every act of sharing. Even the simplest moments become precious when seen through the lens of impermanence. So, instead of worrying about the future or regretting the past, live fully in the present, savoring and being grateful for what you have. Next, we speak of non-self. Understanding non-self is knowing that there is no fixed self. In practical life, this helps us let go of ego and no longer put self at the center of everything. Humans often suffer from conflicts between self and mind, but when we realize that the ego is an illusion, the mind becomes serene, free from jealousy, anger, and hatred. We no longer feel wounded by criticism, nor need to defend this self, as we understand that we are simply part of the cycle of birth and death, with nothing eternal. In relationships, non-self helps us live with compassion and forgiveness. When we let go of ego, we can easily empathize with and understand others, recognizing that all beings share the same nature, subject to impermanence and lacking a fixed self. Non-self fosters love and compassion, allowing us to care for others with sincerity, without calculation or self-interest. Compassion born from non-self is unconditional, a vast and encompassing love for all beings. Finally, there is Nirvana. In life, Nirvana is the state of peace that each person can find in the smallest moments. Nirvana is not only the distant goal of the enlightened but also the tranquility of the heart when we let go of all attachments, all worries, and accept things as they are. Nirvana is a state of mind free from anxieties. Free from fear, a state of serenity when one is no longer driven by greed, anger, and ignorance. In daily life, Nirvana can be found in each breath, each smile, each moment of calm when facing difficulties. When we are no longer governed by desire and craving, when the heart is free from attachment, Nirvana is present. Nirvana is not a place but a state of mind, the liberation found when we achieve inner freedom. Practicing awareness of impermanence, non-self, and Nirvana helps us live with a calm attitude toward change, without fear, without anger, without attachment to fleeting things. When we understand that life is but a series of fleeting moments, we value every second, live a meaningful life, and love everything around us. The deepest meaning of impermanence, non-self, and Nirvana in daily life is the transformation in how we view existence. Living with the spirit of impermanence, we no longer cling to things that have passed, nor fear loss. Living with non-self, we love unconditionally, live harmoniously, and show compassion. And by aspiring to Nirvana, we find true peace and serenity in our hearts, no longer troubled by fleeting illusions. Let impermanence remind us of the value of the present, let non-self help us release ego, and let Nirvana become the destination of peace within our souls. Living a peaceful, compassionate, and liberated life is not something far away. It is something everyone can achieve in this very life. When we understand and apply impermanence, non-self, and Nirvana in our lives, we gradually find a fulfilled life and a serene soul amidst life's ups and downs. This is the true meaning of enlightenment, not to escape life but to live with calm, meaning, and love in every moment of existence. The journey we have undertaken opens a new path for understanding life, the nature of all things, and our own souls. From impermanence to non-self, from emptiness to Nirvana, each concept serves as a gateway, guiding us to recognize the deep truths within life. Eventually, we realize that nothing is permanent, that ego is an illusion, and that true peace does not come from possessing or clinging but from letting go and awakening. Impermanence reminds us that everything in life is constantly changing. It teaches us to live with gratitude, to value each present moment, because nothing lasts forever. When we understand impermanence, we learn to face loss and change and find peace in our hearts, no longer fearing the endless flow of time. Non-self, or the absence of a fixed self, helps us break free from the constraints of ego. Without attachment to self, we no longer suffer from the pain of selfishness, jealousy, and resentment. Instead, compassion and unconditional love flourish, allowing us to live a life of harmony and tolerance. Recognizing non-self is a significant step on the path to enlightenment, freeing us from worldly conflicts and ambitions. And finally, Nirvana, the state of liberation, is the ultimate goal of enlightenment. Nirvana is not an end but a state of completion, a purified state of mind, free from the afflictions of life. Nirvana can be found here. Within this life, when we release all illusions and attain mental serenity. It is a life fully lived, a heart no longer bound, a mind that accepts everything as it is. The journey from impermanence, through non-self, to Nirvana is a journey back to ourselves, where we find genuine peace in the heart. This is a path that anyone can take, not necessarily as an enlightened monk or practitioner. Anyone can live with the awareness of impermanence, practice non-self, and find Nirvana in the present moment. A final message is to live a life that is serene and meaningful. Remember that impermanence is an unchangeable law, and life is merely a string of fleeting moments. Don't let any moment slip by. Live with gratitude, cherish your loved ones, the simple moments, and the little things. When we realize this, every moment becomes precious, every action full of meaning. Let go of attachments, unnecessary worries, and do not let ego control your soul. Do not let desires for material things, fame, or power become burdens. Instead, focus on living a simple life, rich in love and compassion. Life truly becomes meaningful when we can smile in peace, a soul undisturbed by the world's tempests. This life, though full of ups and downs, is but a series of lessons, teaching us more about our true nature. Let impermanence remind us that everything will pass, let non-self help us live with tolerance. And let Nirvana be the ultimate goal of peace within. Every day, every moment, live with this spirit so that we have no regrets about the past, no fear of what is to come, and no worry about things beyond our reach. Live with compassion and wisdom, for these are the paths to true happiness, the keys to unlocking the door of enlightenment. And remember that enlightenment is not a distant destination but a state of peace in each present moment. The greatest joy is not in having more but in letting go and living serenely. Thank you all for joining us on this journey of discovery. We hope that these reflections on impermanence, non-self, and Nirvana offer a new perspective, helping each person to live a peaceful and meaningful life. May these truths be the guiding light in life, bringing peace to the soul, no matter the storms of existence.